Welcome back, everybody. Did I ever tell you guys about the time I found a dead body at work? Yeah, sounds pretty strange, right? Well, I found one. And I'm going to share the story with you guys as we take a little drive here. So, this happened at one of the hospitals we do security at. It was middle of July. I forget the year, but it was a few years back, anyways. And it was extremely hot. This whole couple months, just extremely hot that year. And so I pull in the parking lot at this hospital. And one of the first things I always do when I pull up to a site is kind of look around, see what's happening outside, see how busy it looks. Helps you kind of gauge what you're walking into inside. So anyways, I pull in the parking lot and I notice this van is parked kind of out in the travel lane a little bit of the parking lot there. Most people would park up against the grass. This one was back about 4 or 5 feet, so it's pretty noticeable. It was a pretty big van. It's one of those conversion vans. Not sure if you guys have ever seen them, but they have the tire on the back, big barn doors on the back. They usually have like little sleeping quarters in the rear of the vans. So anyways, I noticed it, but didn't really think much of it. People park like bozos all the time. So I go inside, get signed in, and go on my first patrol of the building, and one of the staff members asked me if anything happened with the van that was outside. And I hadn't mentioned anything to him about it, so I wasn't sure what they meant. But I had a feeling it was about the same van I noticed. So I asked them what they knew about it, and they said that it had been there for a few days. And they had told security about it, that it was still sitting there. So I finished doing my patrol, and then I went outside. We didn't do a lot outside at this hospital, just a quick walk through the parking lot. But the fact that the staff had mentioned something about it told me I should probably check it out a little closer. So I go out to the van, and I'm kind of looking in, trying to see if I can see anything that would tell me if it was a patient inside, or sometimes people leave notes on their car if they're going to leave it for a few days, something like that. And I couldn't see at all into the back 3/4 of the van because all the windows were blocked, and there was also a sheet between the front seats and the back of the vehicle, like right up against the back of the front seat. So couldn't see into the back at all, and the driver and passenger side were locked. Wouldn't have opened it up anyways because it's not our place, but could tell that it was locked. So due to it being locked and no notes on it, we needed to figure out whose vehicle it was, just to make sure they're safe, really. So I gave the police department a call, see if they could run the registration, and then we could match it to the inpatient records and see if that person was there, or if they had been shipped out to a bigger hospital. We just wanted to make sure they were safe, really. That was the biggest thing. So the police department showed up a few minutes later. I was still outside. They said they were on their way, so I figured I'd stay out there, kind of give them what I knew about it. So once the officer arrived, he did the same thing I did, just kind of looked in the vehicle to see if he could notice anything. He came up with the same conclusion. All the doors looked locked. So he proceeded to run the license plate, see if we could get a name. That didn't work out very well. I was standing right next to him when he read the plate, and it came back as not registered, which was strange because in Vermont, our registration stickers also have the plate number on them, and the plate number matched the sticker. So it was kind of strange that it was coming back not registered. I'm sure there could be many reasons why, but it seemed kind of strange to me at the time. This apparently gave him cause to open up the van. So he tried all the front doors. None of those worked. So we went to the back, and on the back it had a big spare tire on the back door, and then it had the barn doors, as I mentioned earlier. So he unlatches the spare tire, moves that out of the way, and then he goes and starts to open one of the barn doors on the back. And as he opened it, the shade that was in front of the window started to move. And this officer pulls out his gun like he's going to shoot something. I mean, he had that thing pulled right back, right next to my head. I was just waiting for that shot to go off. Oh, man. But thank God he didn't. And he goes back to the door, starts opening it up, and the shade in the window actually fell all the way down because it was stuck on a foot. Yes, you heard that right. There was a foot on the strap holding it up. So as he moved the door, it fell down. Attached to this foot was the rest of a body that was no longer alive. So this turned from just a vehicle parked weird to a dead body in the back of a van in the parking lot in the middle of the day. So needless to say, that was quite interesting to find. Shouldn't laugh. Of course, it's sad. Person passed away. But this was a first for me and a first for anybody I ever knew. Kind of backtrack here. So this was my first shift on for the week. And we had another security guard on that was on for 5 days before that. And come to find out, this van had been there for 4 of those 5 days. Still to this day trying to figure out how it was not noticed before and why nothing was done before then. As you just heard, it was pretty easy for me to get somebody there to figure out whose car this was. Or van, sorry. But that's way above my pay grade to deal with that. By some miracle, this person was actually able to keep their job. Not really sure how I felt about that, especially when they're in charge of a or security for a hospital. They should be a little more observant and a little better versed at dealing with these kind of things. Maybe not necessarily a body because, well, that's not normal. But a vehicle should have been noticed, should have been reported, something. And not to mention, or like I said earlier, there was actually staff that had noticed it and had said something to them. Anyways, so back to the body. As soon as the officer realized what it was, he immediately made sure to have the whole area kind of roped off and started other supervisors and whatnot on his side to the scene. They did have one of the ER doctors come out and check for pulse or whatever they do to verify that the person actually was deceased, which they were, if you didn't already know that. So at this point, the scene became in their control. Clearly, security wouldn't deal with something like that. So I went back to doing some of my rounds, which, again, not a very big hospital, so it didn't take very long. I went back outside just to kind of keep people coming out of the building from going to that area. There were other cars nearby, so we had to make arrangements for them to get their cars without contaminating the scene and all that. So I think it was about a half hour, 40 minutes later, they decided they were going to move the body from the van. Now you might be thinking, that is going to be disgusting. That smell has got to be terrible. Surprisingly, there was absolutely no smell at all. I wasn't very close, but I was close enough that if there was a smell, I definitely would have gotten a face full of it. What had happened is because it was so hot and they were inside the van, but also on the mattress that was on the back, in the back, I should say. All the nasty smells and stuff had soaked into that mattress. So when they took the body out, there was no smell at all. They closed the van up pretty fast, so if there was anything coming out of that, um, you know, after the body was moved, I'm not sure. Anyways, they ended up taking the van so they could do their investigation and all that. Later on, I think a few weeks or a month or so later, through some sources, I found out that the body had been deceased for 5 days when I found it. They did the autopsy 7 days after, or 2 days after I found it, and they had been dead for 7 days. So when I found it, it was on the 5th day. But needless to say, it was quite the experience. Not something I would like to go through again. Not that it really affected me much. You see that, not necessarily that kind of stuff, but you see death and people at their worst and all that in the hospitals. And I've done quite a few years of hospital security, so that part of it didn't really bother me. Hopefully this was somewhat interesting to you guys. We'll let you finish out this little bit of a drive here and come back next week for a story involving 4 state troopers, myself, pepper spray, and a highly intoxicated naked person. It's a good one, so come back. Thanks, everybody.